Hi, welcome to video 9, the pandemic. Did we sanitize connection? As I've done therapy with clients throughout the pandemic, there has been trends in what's been reported to me. I'd like to focus on where people are at emotionally and from a mental health standpoint. There has been a paradigm shift for many, reevaluating the path always taken. Where before the norm was in office work with commutes, water cooler talk, and established routines, the pandemic brought work from home into the norm category. Now, having been in a pandemic for so long and adjusting to changes, many are reevaluating the old way. Some looking for new remote work, others advocating to have their position more permanently flexible with remote options. Some of the pluses have been a better work-life balance, with the chance to have a minute with children before school and seeing them after school, where they would have been gone before, or a chance to switch the laundry on a break, or to connect with the dogs during lunch. Financially enjoying the perks of fewer oil changes, cars lasting longer with less wear and tear, and less time in the car overall. Another trend is the overall evaluating of everyday components that were a given before, that we're questioning now. Exploring what's really important, how we want to spend our time. For some, they want more freedom to travel and to follow passions, to shift from I live to work to I work to live, where work was a key player, or even for some their life, and a huge ego boost and identifier. Now moving into work is just a part of life. Really, when my clients talk about it, it now feels like how they would talk of showering or going to the bathroom. A very big paradigm shift for workaholics or for those obsessed with their career before. Some of these types of reactions are normative responses, meaning they're pretty normal for the situation when coming out of a crisis. When there is such a worldwide macro change like a pandemic, it can wake us up to reprioritize aspects of our life and what we're renting headspace to, what we're thinking about a lot. Now let's validate the difficulties that have been faced by so many. Not only the pandemic itself, with its very destructive, life-threatening, life-affecting changes for so many. What did we not think about or take for granted that the pandemic brought to light, besides toilet paper? Our patterns are changing. We know that children really struggle to adapt to change, especially change that they didn't see coming, or that no one gave them a narrative to understand what was happening or what was going to happen. So we know kids struggle with change, but adults thrive on prediction and stability too. As an adult, when you are 26 and over, we have what's called a prefrontal cortex formed and involved to walk us logically through what happens that isn't predictable, to help us to not just be reactive. However, the other parts of our brain that are further from our conscious awareness, like the amygdala, which is internal, and the reptilian brain, which is back here at the base of our skull and where our neck meets, can still be triggered in a primal way with stress and change, often throwing our nervous system into a hyper-aroused state, really revved up, or the flight, fight, or freeze mode. Our cortisol levels can get all out of whack. The isolation caused by COVID has unfortunately increased the number of people who experience anxiety and depression. Relapses are up for many in the addiction world, and it's concerning to those of us who work in it. On one level or another, the pandemic has elicited a fear response. Fear can disconnect us. It's hard or impossible at times to be authentically us when we're afraid. So what if you believe strongly that everyone should wear a mask and someone chooses not to. Let's go inward with that. It can cause anger, disconnect, judgment on our part. Underneath that, if we go deeper, usually fear. And if we go deeper than that, often grief. Feel it in your body and give it the stage for a moment. Then move to comforting and nurturing yourself on that. Bring kindness to yourself as you recognize some of these emotional processes. From this integrative state of connecting with yourself, see that person again in your mind. Maybe that person who's resistant to wear a mask, if you're a firm mask believer. From a curious space, what reasons could they have that they may be acting that way? Or that they might believe what they believe? It's an invitation to care, where before it would have been an aversion or distance. You don't have to agree or get caught up in the details around their reasoning. You don't have to take on a mission of converting everybody around you to your way of thinking. This example around mask wearing shows stepping into ourselves with kindness so we can ground and then connect externally as a more mindful us. Doing this takes work. It's hard to access the present moment and be in our body when a subject has so much emotion behind it for us. We often don't have the presence to hold the irrational fear on the other side and what they might have as a perspective and what we feel when they share. We avoid it because we already feel so much with our own views and our own perspective. It takes mindfulness to create that space for another point of view. We can disagree and still connect as humans, acknowledging one another. Humility is needed to see another view, just to see it. Without humility in our interactions, it is like making cookies without flowers. If we don't have flour, shit just goes everywhere when it's baked. Things get messy, and we're often mean when we fight for our opinion or to be right. And that can go everywhere, just like the cookies. The result too often is disconnect. Now, the anecdote, what we do for that, how we heal that. Love reconnects us. Loving ourselves and then externalizing that love. Connecting to others. Service and noticing love others demonstrate can pull us out of this fear and give us hope again. Connection again. The world shows us its beauty when we connect to the source of love, which is the same for all of us. I find uncontainable inspiration when I learn about the trauma healing that took place for those whom survived the Holocaust. To those victims who were so complexly traumatized and wronged, many healed in groups, finding ways to get together, tell their story, to share and be heard, to put the burden and pain out there, and to have others witness, attune, and hold space for them. Where so many were hurt, so many found healing in one another. They were taught to have a different experience where they could be safe in this same crowd again, where they weren't before. Where they were partners in the pain before. What a beautiful anecdote to the domination they experienced that caused the trauma. When humanity is at its worst, we can tap into some of the greatest light, the universal power of healing of it. It's hard to describe. I don't have the perfect words. Clinicians and healers alike have spoken to it. I have truly been blessed to witness it. We all want to be seen. We want to be seen. Being heard is validating and relational. And when you are on the other end and somebody's sharing with you, being a compassionate listener and holding space for someone else builds connection and intimacy. Remember, we are wired to deeply connect. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to hearing from you.